as tough a night as it was, it's at least nice to see that when you're down 2-0, you're capable of coming back and at least salvaging a point.
Coach, did you think there would be a greater sense of urgency on both sides earlier on? Were you surprised with that?
Not really, because when you sit back and you're kind of looking from wherever you're sitting, when you look at the pace of the game, you say, well, it doesn't seem to. But what people have to realize too is there's been a ton of games played. To me, this is without a doubt the toughest schedule I've ever had as a coach in this league in the second half of the season. And for anybody who understands the sport and the athletes and the travel and everything that comes with it, it's certainly a challenge in itself. I think we've had 25 road games since after Christmas, and a lot of those are 11-day road trips, a few 6-day road trips, travel to California and everything else. It catches up. So guys go out there, and they as much as they work hard, it's easy for people to sit back and say, well, they're not as quick and they don't seem as desperate as they should. And I think both teams were desperate, but the pace of the game certainly wasn't probably what most people expected.
What's been the biggest change these last 7 games, getting back to holding teams under 3 goals?
It's more of our identity, right? And I think it's paying attention to details without the puck, and we've started taking pride in that, and we've cut down on the shots against, and been a better team because of that.
I feel like it was a particularly dangerous play there that Chara hit on McQuaid that caused it.
Well, again, when it happens to you, you also have to be honest about it. And I think, again, he came off the bench and he was going hard. And maybe it was a little bit reckless, but there's no doubt in my mind that it wasn't intentional. Mac just turned at the last second and, put himself in a bit of a vulnerable position. But it's still, I agree with the referee's call. It was a bit of a reckless hit, and it deserved probably a 5 when you look back at the replay, and they had to make that decision. It was a tough one, but certainly wasn't intent danger by the player, in my mind. And, and that's why I keep saying, and you've heard me before, I really, really encourage our players to be careful with the speed of the game today, to make sure you don't turn your back to play as much, because those kind of things happen, and you're worried about the security of the players, you're worried about the safety of the game, and I'm one of those guys that will look at both sides of it and not just preach for my side of it.
You talked about the schedule, the heavy workload, the second half of the season. Is there anything you learned last year during the playoff run that you are employing this year different, or keeping in mind as far as keeping guys fresh?
Well, I think playoffs are a whole different thing from the regular season. You're not traveling from city to city and back-to-back games and stuff like that, so you handle it a little differently. But I've said that before. I don't know. I don't think you've been around to hear this stuff, but we've tried to manage our team the best we can with the heavy schedule that we've been handed in the second half, and the long season that we had last year. We're trying to manage that the best we can, and still are. And I don't think it's a clear-cut answer, but when you look at tonight, again, you have to look at your team and say, how do we manage this situation so that we can be as fresh as we can be.
How did you feel about Corvo's game and how he responded his first game back in a while?
You said it, I think his first game back in a while, and I didn't see any glaring mistakes that would point the finger in his direction, and to me he was still a decent puck-moving defenseman, and so I don't certainly wouldn't qualify him as a bad player tonight.
Claude, the math of the standing is certainly in your favor here. So have you reached the point where you've stopped watching the math, or is that still in your head a little bit?
Oh, I think you can't stop watching that. There's still some situations Florida is playing right now, and they're 4 points behind us, and 5 with tonight. But by the end of this game, they could be 5, 4, or 3 behind us. So you're still watching, still scoreboard watching a lot. And when you look at what's happened tonight with Washington, if we would have beat them, we would have clinched. But as we didn't, we're still in the same boat that we were before the game.